High atop a hill above my old high school sits Westminster Abbey in Mission, British Columbia. Having lived in Mission for 8 years, I can assure you that the Abbey is both an attraction worth visiting and also the only visually interesting thing about Mission.
Mission, of course, is the easternmost suburb of Vancouver, where the average price of a home is the equivalent of 6 McLarens. But with house prices that high, most people don't have nice cars, as you will see from our group of drivers.
Off in the distance on the right-hand side of the tiny bridge in your screen lies the Mission Raceway Park, known by the locals as the Mission Raceway Park. And today is the first Garage 5 Velocity Autosports Performance Driving Day of 2022 for me and my group of friends, which is brought to you by the $325 we each pay to be here. Today we have 4 groups: Expert, Advanced, Intermediate, and Newcomer. Each group except Newcomer gets 20 minutes on the track to drive as fast as you can, but passing is only allowed in dedicated passing zones. Newcomers have 3 20-minute sessions with instructors and 1 open session at the end of the day. And here's the track. It's a 2.17 kilometer circuit with 9 turns, 2 to the right, 6 to the left, and 1 left-right chicane that, for reasons I do not fully understand, is considered 1 turn. The lap record for anyone I know is 125.5, and that's mine. Most cars reach speeds of between 140 and 200 kilometers an hour along the main straightaway, and you take the lap at full throttle for, if you're me, 45% of the time. And yes, I worked this out. There are 3 passing zones, 1 along the main straight, 1 after turn 2, also known as the Greg Moore turn, and right after the zigzag of turns 4, 5, and 6, also known as Cascade Corners. The only elevation change is a slight bump at the apex of turn 3, which, if you're driving your mother's SL500, will trigger the emergency roll bar deployment system you didn't know existed and make you wonder what in the absolute just happened. There are 2 heavy braking zones, one into the hairpin at the end of the main straightaway and the other before turn 3. The heavy braking zone into turn 1 will tax your braking system, resulting in a completely trashed set of brake pads on my 04 Passat, or a complete loss of braking, again on my mom's SL500. Shit. After narrowly not smashing it into a Civic, I brought it to a stop by throwing it into a skid, leaving my mom a wicked set of flat spots on her pretty new Pilot Sports. Here's today's starting grid. Out of the roughly 40 drivers that are here, 5 of us know each other. Starting with Newcomer, we have Sammy in a 2010 Mercedes C300 4MATIC, Dave in a 2020 Tesla Model 3 Standard Range Plus, and Ed in a 2015 Chevy Spark EV. In Intermediate, there's me in a 2021 BMW 330e. And finally, Keith in the only car actually suited for the track, a 2017 Porsche 911 4C Cabriolet. Today's tire compounds are basically everything but snows, from the wonderfully sticky Pirelli P0 on the Porsche, to whatever was cheapest when Chevrolet made the Spark, to the absolute hot garbage of the Pirelli Cinturato P7 run flat all seasons on the BMW. This should make it an interesting day, considering our morning track temperature at 7:30 was 19 degrees Celsius. And welcome one and all. With me in the commentary box here is Keith Roy.
This is not a commentary box. This is your dining room, and I'm sitting next to an 8-foot-tall teddy bear.
That you bought.
You're welcome.
All right. The first item of the day is tech inspection. This is where all of the drivers have to go through. It's really not that onerous. They just check your tires, your brakes, make sure all the bolts on your tires are tight, and then they check under your engine bay to make sure there isn't anything hanging or going to fall off or get sucked into the engine and start destroying things on the track.
Chris, for all our listeners out there, I went to prep school, and I know nothing about tools, mechanics, cars, fixing things. So I showed up there, and they said something about torquing. I thought that was the dance. I've heard about that from the bar kids.
All right.
Anyways,
Thank you
my
very
wheels
much.
stayed on the whole time. I think they did their job.
All right, back to Mission. The first item of the day is the driver's briefing, so let's cut to that.
All right, so the rules for today, please remember, if for any reason you have an off-track experience, do not get out of your car unless it's an emergency situation.
Well, this is terrible audio. Someone obviously forgot to bring a microphone.
I was too lazy to bring in the shotgun mic.
All right, let's check in at pre-grid.
Radio check, radio check. Sounds like radio to me.
I'm about to go, and Chris, you're sitting there putting on your fancy driving gloves. How many horsepower do those gloves give you?
At least 5. All right, we're both out on the track. Keith, what are your expectations for the day?
Well, the first session of the day is really to get reacquainted with the track. The first 2 laps are under yellow flag conditions, so no passing and taking it easy. Our tires are cold, and most of us haven't driven the track for months, if not years.
It's a good point, especially for the intermediates. And at this point of the day, the track temperature is probably around 20 degrees Celsius, which would make for a really quick spin if you went full blast out of the gate. Okay, so Keith, it looks like here you're getting prepped to do a hot lap. You just passed by, I think that's a Civic. Why don't you walk us through what's going on here?
Well, honestly, I'm driving a Porsche and I passed a Civic. This is not a function of me being a great driver. This is really a function of me having a very nice car. As you can see, I'm all over the track with this thing. I'm scared to hit the wall. I'm scared to hit the corners.
You're doing all right, though. You're reaching out towards the side there. You cut the corner there reasonably well. And drift back over towards the edge. Yeah, you're about maybe a car length or so away from the wall there.
Which a car length is an uncomfortable distance for me from the wall. Here in British Columbia, where this is being done, we have public auto insurance. And if I run this thing into the wall, my insurer says I'm not going to get anything for it because I'm on a track by myself. So I'm just driving around with something I can't afford to replace. And I'm spending most of my time thinking, don't hit the wall, don't hit the wall. Here we come up. This is a really tight turn, right? I'm thinking, don't not hit this corner.
Well, this turn is interesting because the proper way to do the turn is floor it while you're pointing at that concrete wall on the right-hand side there, which up until this day I had never managed to be able to do.
And later in the day, I think we'll have a conversation around having an instructor in the car, and that was a conversation I ultimately had with my instructor. But to your original question, what am I thinking? At this point, I'm thinking faster, because I'm still a little boy. How can I get this thing from second gear to third gear on the straight? And this is what you're seeing right now as I'm reaching top speeds of around 170-ish kilometers an hour, right before heading into a hairpin right here as you drop off most of that speed, and you'll see I missed most of the corner.
You ran way long there, yeah. But you did a 1:31. That was a pretty respectable lap time.
Again, credit to the car. I'm just a guy who's behind the wheel.
Okay.
Now, Chris, you're just coming to the straightaway. This is a hot lap for you. Tell us what you're going through as you come around the corner here.
Yeah, one of the things I keep in mind is the tires on this car are absolute hot garbage, and I can overheat them at the end of this straightaway. If I hit the brakes too hard, then the tires just get so slippery for the rest of the lap, and then I'm fighting it through the whole lap. So try and keep moderate brake pressure, hit the main apex there, drift it out the proper amount on that corner. Left tires just hit the paint. Again, bring it over back to the right-hand side, curve in. This whole corner is kind of me fighting at the edge of traction to hit that corner. And then again, it's however much guts you have to run the corner wide against this against the wall there.
So for every other 3 Series BMW owner in town, most of whom are realtors, what can they learn from this if they're commuting to work, which is what this car was built for?
Well, it does have sport mode and a decent amount of horsepower. The trickiest part, I think, is just remembering your brake points and remembering your turn-in points. Like, it doesn't really matter the quality or speed of the car. It's actually easier to learn on a slower car. This one is a little bit tricky just because there's the battery in the back. This is a 330E, so there's a lot of weight getting thrown around. And again, the tires are low rolling resistance tires that aren't designed for the racetrack, so it's going to be a fight the whole day. Plus, this is first thing in the morning. Track temperature's around 20 degrees or so you got to get the heat in the tires. This one isn't too bad. I'm actually tracking to get what's the time on this one? A 1:26, so I'm actually pretty close to the fastest lap.
Well, I'm looking forward to later in this episode when we talk about, you were mentioning the low quality of cars. We definitely had some drivers in our group with low quality cars.
We did, and they did decently well. So, cut back to you right now. It looks like you're finishing up your lap here because everyone's going pretty slowly. Were you fairly happy with your performance on the first run?
It's an incredible adrenaline rush at that early in the morning to really get into that level of speed. It gets you primed up. If any nerves you had going into the first couple laps, by the time you've gone through 5 or 6 laps that you get through in your time, you're right into it. So,
team radio.
Hey Chris, where did you go?
I'm just coming in the pit lane now.
I think that Mustang's getting in lots of trouble.
Why? Because it's slow as
He was crazy slow on the first couple laps, and then I saw him leave, and then he got pulled over as we all came in again. some guy just went onto the track in a Chevy Spark.
I know there's no accounting for skill or taste.
All right, let's go to Edward in the Newcomer session. And he's just sitting in his car.
All right, here we go. We're moving.
All right, so let's cut to Ed during the lap. He appears to be constantly complaining about his car.
And I just figured out that these seats have absolutely no lateral support, so I'm going to be relying on the seatbelt to hold me in place quite a bit.
You know, it's tough to drive a 90 horsepower golf cart around a racetrack. It's just not built for that. We all have been golfing. You sit in a golf cart, you take a hard turn, and someone goes flying out the side. In this case, it's the driver who's moving.
The other thing, too, is there's no engine noise. You're used to driving on the road and go like, wah, wah, and then you get into the EV and nothing happens. Like, you just push the gas pedal. The car keeps going faster, but there's no corresponding audio cues.
It's worth noting here, Chris, that this is a beginner's first lap. So what you're basically watching is a suburban traffic jam. This is low heat highway on a Monday morning at 8:30 a.m. with people trying to get to work a little bit faster than normal. There's nothing crazy here. It's all about getting familiar with the track.
That is true.
Let's watch Ed bring this thing into the straightaway.
To your point, Keith, yeah, so the first few sessions in the beginner sessions are familiarization with the track, getting used to passing. You can see it was under yellow flag conditions as we drove by the start-finish line, so passing's not allowed. Really, you're not aiming for speed, you're aiming for just familiarity with the track. So
The rest of the session was pretty much what you're seeing here. They're running laps at about the 2-minute range and burning through many, many kilowatts of electricity.
kilowatt hours. You gotta get those units right.
I have an arts degree.
So do I. All right, let's while we're on board here, let's swap to the Tesla and see what's going on.
What's going on here?
Dave said it would record footage for the entire day. It didn't. All we have is the last session for the Tesla.
Thanks, Elon. While we're on board with Edward, let's go to Gunther Steiner, today's team principal for Tesla. Gunther, your onboard's not working and your driver is causing a traffic jam. What's going on down there?
Well, you know, this is a terrible day. I mean, we are used to professional drivers, or at least one professional driver per Mazepin, but today we have Dave and a car that's really designed for driving hippies to and from Whole Foods.
Yes, but isn't the Tesla a decent track car? It's got a pretty good low center of gravity and it's got decent wheels on it, no?
Yes, maybe, but you need a driver with some decent testosterone, not some Weibstuck who probably so timid he knows how to fold a fitted sheet. Trust me, I know from my last few years of experience, there's only so much you can do with a good car and shit drivers.
So what do you think the chances are for the Tesla to get the fastest time today?
Well, he's not like Nikita, where you can just boost his confidence by paying some Instagram model to flirt with him, so I think we'll just have to give up and try another day.
What about just getting the camera up and running?
I don't know, this car seems like a giant piece of The camera's a non-moving part with 3 wires, and they somehow fucked that up too.
Well, thanks for joining us today, Gunther.
Anytime. Oh, one more thing. Keith, I was looking at your onboards. You got to be less of a wimp on your brakes. Could you maybe pretend as the head of a competing realtor and there's a brake pedal or something? Because you're driving like you've got groceries in the trunk.
Perhaps I'll hit the brakes the way Elon hit the brakes on that Twitter deal.
True. He was pretty wishy-washy on that one as well.
Let's move on from this and cut down to Ted at Race Control. Ted, what do you have for us?
My name's not Ted.
It is for today.
All right. Well, what I want to show you guys real quick, you'll notice we got a split screen here. On this side, we have a 2005 Mercedes SL 500, makes 300 horsepower and about 350 foot-pounds of torque. On the right-hand side, a 2015 Chevy Spark makes only 140 horsepower, but 327 foot-pounds of torque thanks to that electric motor. Go ahead and roll the tape, Chris. All right, so what we're going to see, or what we're going to keep an eye on, is braking distance when we actually start braking on both sides, the cornering, the handling, the acceleration out of the corners, especially when you notice with the Spark, when it comes through the apex, it really takes off quick and kind of catches up a little bit to the Mercedes. Now, the Mercedes does a 129 on this lap. The Chevy Spark, the best lap of its day, does a 131, only 2 seconds behind. So yeah, even though on paper these vehicles don't compete, in reality, they're pretty darn close. Thanks to that extra 1,200 pounds that the Mercedes is packing, it unfortunately loses a bit of the power to weight distribution ratio. So now as we go through the corners up here, we're going to notice we're actually going to pause the left side just for a moment so that the spark can catch up. There it is right there. Now for the rest of this section here, the spark's handling is going to keep it in tow with the Mercedes SL500. Keep an eye on the braking as we approach the chicane here. You can see the brake markers coming up. There's the cone, there's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you'll notice it's actually very, very similar. The Spark is able to brake a little bit later as well, and very little brake fade due to a lot of regenerative braking from the electric motor. Now, as you can see, we come around on the last corner here, and we're going to accelerate to the finish line. And there they go across the line with the Mercedes having only a 2-second lead. Back to you, Chris.
Why are we listening to Hannah Montana?
I'd forgotten about that.
It's a parent thing.
So, for the record, Keith, you had said on the radio, why are we listening to Hannah Montana? And in order to reestablish my masculinity, I just let loose the largest belch that I did in a considerable period of time. And I was about to say, that's what I have to say about that, when someone else radioed, which means that from your perspective, I just let loose this really rank burp for no apparent reason.
So you're both a disgusting man, and you listen to Hannah Montana.
Sure, we'll go with that.
So I came in the car with you on this round because the rain started, and I just don't have the level of confidence to run a vehicle as powerful as the one I own. So I wanted to sit in your car for the rain ride. Unfortunately, it started with you burping and me being stuck in a bulbous tube with you for 1 minute and 30 seconds, which was one of the worst experiences I've ever had at a track.
You brought that one on yourself, whether or not you know it, but...
Oh, shit, it's slippery.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see me sort of hacksawing the steering wheel there. I think there's a couple of things at play here. Number one, they had actually had a number of races there through the course of the weekend that meant, I don't know what type of races they were, but there was a bunch of stuff that got stuck on the racetrack, like oil and bits of grease and stuff that hadn't had a chance to get burned away. Number two, you have cold tires. Number three, it starts to get a little bit wet. So there's sort of a trifecta of, traction causes there. So
I mean, a lot of that is countered off with those sweet, sweet gloves you're wearing, too.
Yeah, exactly. Those get you an extra 0.2 G around turns. So
this is about the point where there's enough airflow going in and around the car that the smell has started to dissipate.
Okay, so this is me off sort of a prep warm-up lap. The tires are a lot warmer, the traction's a lot better. Again, the hardest part is picking your braking point. This looks like I braked a little bit early, which I did.
So this is a smooth corner for us. I'm feeling pretty comfortable as a passenger, but as a passenger, this is the part that becomes the most nerve-wracking. Watch as you come into the apex of this turn. You cut it hard, and as you come around, your goal here, and you're doing this on purpose, you want to get as close to that wall as possible, but I'm the guy in the seat that's next to that wall. So now we're picking up speeds in the mid-100s, and I've got a wall flying by me, and those numbers, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, they're coming at me fast. If you go off to the right a little bit, I'm going straight into that wall. Again, here, I stick my hand out, I can just slap the trees, hit the wall. All of the corners on this track and all the walls on this track are on the passenger side, which is a bit of a nerve-wracking feeling if you're in that passenger seat, not in control of a high-speed moving vehicle.
Even in the driver's seat, to your point, like the car I did this before was the Passat, which I ended up selling for $2,000 with a spare set of rims. So if I smacked it into the wall or lost control or smashed it up, I don't really care. But this is I paid, I don't know, $68,000 for this car. To your point, these aren't insured for track use, right? Well, that's me seesawing a little bit there too. So yeah, like you slipped into a wall, you're out anywhere between what, $5,000 and $70,000. Probably somewhere about twice that for the Porsche. And it'd be way easier to slam it into a wall on the Porsche. So what did I do here? This was a 129. It's not too bad for these conditions. I think by this point you had about enough of this, no?
I was still waiting for the smell from your burp to dissipate from the car.
Oh my goodness, Chris is pulling into the pit lane. Is that because Keith needs to puke?
Did you want to come out and do a lap, or were you just done?
I think it was lunchtime.
Yeah, that is true.
Keith has gotten out. Apparently he's had enough. Enough substandard driving for Keith today.
Oh, that's funny. Thanks, Dave. This looks like a wartime footage of like all of a sudden the car is just going to be a flash of light and no car anymore.
Now, I was pretty proud of us for that. I mean, it wasn't your typical, F1 3-second pit stop, but I got out of that car pretty quick, and you were back on the track.
That is true, yeah.
Now, Chris, can you tell me, is this the point in the race where you put Hannah Montana back on?
It never went off, Keith. I just had the volume low enough that no one else could hear but myself. Actually, you can see my my headphone cable dangling off of my helmet there. So it was my own personal radio station. We'll be back after this. Son of a bitch!
What? Have we recorded nothing?
No, I like all day. I stopped at the halfway session.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we missed all the instructor stuff.
We did. God damn it!
It's like amateur hour at the film factory.
Welcome back to the afternoon. Track temperature is up to 26 degrees. The track is dried up to merely overcast. Thanks again to Garage 5 for a barbecue so good we've all lost about 2/10 on the straightaway. Both Keith and I had instructors sitting in with us, and of course we didn't turn on Keith's GoPro.
It really was amateur hour at the filming factory that day. So here I've got the instructor in the car, and this was a very interesting experience. The track is intimidating on its own, but when you have someone sitting next to you, you're reluctant to go much harder than you had been going. And what was striking for me is this particular instructor just wanted me to go faster and faster. As we approached the wall, he said, get closer to the wall, get closer to the wall, go faster, go harder. And I thought, well, if he's comfortable with it, and he did point out to me that my car, it's highly unlikely that I will be able to outdrive my car. So he really pushed me to the outer limit, which honestly, that's what a good coach or instructor does for you.
Within reason, you're safe. You got to keep a bit of a safety margin, but yeah, that's the thing you want to do. I found my instructor was constantly telling me kind of where to aim the car. Like I was doing okay, coming up close to the wall. But for example, here, heading along the straightaway to the final turn, I would always hug the wall a little bit too much. And he was saying, no, straight line, keep it in a straight line. Otherwise, you're driving longer than you have to before you enter in the chicane and come around for the final corner there.
No, I feel pretty comfortable with my speed. I feel like I've got the car at the outer limit of what I'm comfortable with, and what I was hoping to learn from my instructor was how to do some of that heel-toe shifting. I've got 7 gears in that car. I'm rarely outside of second gear. There's really one spot on the track where I hit third gear, and I just wanted to understand that whole shifting a little bit better. Unfortunately, the driver just said to me, this is not your problem. You just need to drive harder, faster, and learn the track a little more, and that heel-toe thing will come at a different time.
Well, this lap for me was a 129. I assume it was pretty close for you because you were right in front of me. But I have found that in the past. In previous years, I took my 04 Passat, which had a couple of advantages. Number one, it was only worth about $1,000. So if I ended up spinning out and slamming it into a wall, I'd literally just hand them the keys and walk home. And also, it was a 5-speed stick. I had been driving stick shift for years, so I was used to, at that point, heel and toeing and doing more spirited drives while, going from fourth, you hit the clutch, bring it into neutral, blip the revs while you're hitting the brake full power, and then letting out the clutch to sync everything, and then popping it into second or whatever at the end of the straightaway. But it's just so much going on, and I think had I not had the years of practice doing that on city streets around low-speed corners where there's no stress, if you blow a shift, it doesn't really matter. There's no Supra 6 inches off your rear bumper. I actually would find it quite difficult, I think, to even try and pick it up on the first day. So
I think Instagram has the solution for me. They've been advertising a Pilates shoe. It looks like a really fancy race shoe. And my impression is that if I get those shoes, much like your gloves, it will make me a better driver.
The rule is for every $10 you spend on accessories, that's an extra horsepower.
That checks out.
So as I'm prepping for this lap, one of the other things that we managed to get working on this lap is my telemetry. So BMWs have a program called M Lap Timer, where you can hit record and it will record a bunch of data from the car. So in this case, we've got throttle position, brake actuation, so on or off, speed, RPM, and the G-force meter. And the G-force meter is actually really helpful because if you look at it, what you should see is right now when you hit the brakes and then when you turn, you should see the G-force dot go in along sort of parallel to that circle, sort of in a curve. And what if it means, if you've got a curve, it means that you've gone from sort of full on the brakes and blended your braking into turning very well, and that means if you've done that properly, you're maximizing the available traction.
So this is something that I see quite regularly in my life. I have a 2-year-old with an Etch-a-Sketch, and it looks a lot like this. It's just a little blue dot going side to side, up, down, ring around the rosy. And there it goes. Look at you, side to side. You know, if this was in Ed's car, that Chevy Spark, he would have flown out of the car.
He probably would have rolled it 4 times. Yeah, you can see there we're heading into the last, the chicane there. It's flopping back and forth, but I managed to do some decent braking, turning into a decent corner. So I've been pretty good at maximizing my available traction out of here. And then again, as you kind of unroll out of that final corner and move on to the gas, you can see the dot gradually comes back towards the middle.
Watch this as you hit the brakes heading into the hairpin here.
Oh, this is a cool down lap. My standard practice is I do 1 hot lap and then 1 cool down lap. Otherwise, the battery just drains too quickly in the car. So
we're now on to session 3 for newcomers. This is the first of the sessions where we have onboard footage of Sammy. We have Toto Voif on the pit to talk with us. Toto, good afternoon.
Hello, Keith.
Toto, the last time out, Chris's SL500 had a brake failure. I think it was his mom's car. Do you have any worries about reliability with Sammy's car?
Well, you are right. To be clear, it was not Chris's SL500, it was his mother's. But again, you buy a black Mercedes if you were sophisticated. You buy a black BMW if you want to pretend to be sophisticated but drive like Valtteri.
True. Okay, I'm sorry. But what about the reliability of this car?
Well, Keith, you have to remember, Chris is about 2 meters tall and well over 100 kilos. Any car's brakes would fail if you took it on the racetrack with such a giant fat glops in the front seat.
Okay, maybe so, Toto, but even still, Sammy's Mercedes is 12 years old.
Yeah, I have shoes older than that, and they're still immaculate and provide excellent support. You must remember, at Mercedes, you have hired only the best engineers, many of the finest drivers, and also Valtteri, and I don't remember us ever having a mechanical DNF.
But what about Valtteri's wheel nut last year at Monaco?
That was Valtteri's fault.
Of course it was. How are you going to keep Sammy's time faster than Edward's or Dave's?
Well, we know Edward and Dave are both capable drivers. We are just fortunate that Edward is basically driving a lawnmower and Dave needs an extension cord to get all the way down the main straight.
Okay, thanks, Toto.
You're welcome.
All right, we're picking up Sammy here, coming into turn 3. One of the problems I find with laps like this is, it looks like the GoPro battery just died.
Yeah, one of the problems I find with amateur film enthusiasts is that they don't actually capture all the film you need.
All right, well, let's pick up Sammy on some of the external cameras here. What have we got? It looks like, there he is going down the straightaway, which it looks like he's got giant clouds of black smoke coming out of the back of it.
You know, Toto promised some reliability with the Mercedes, but I just didn't see that when Sammy was on the track, unless he's crop dusting for the guy behind him to try and keep him off his tail. You either pass or be passed.
No, there's definitely big clouds of black smoke, or no, some clouds of smoke coming out of the back of that Mercedes. So,
and he's got an instructor in there with him who at this point has got to be nervous for his own safety. And what's this? We have
there's the
lawnmower golf cart coming up the track. Look at this thing handle. It is really. It is something.
It is on the track, turning the corner. Yeah.
That thing just went around a corner.
If I may, a lot of his lap times are faster than yours.
Well, that didn't work.
And of course, Ed's swearing. Oh, Ed, Sammy's making more. Yep, there's definitely smoke coming out of the back of that. And then, awesome, Ed and Dave are getting stuck up in his cloud of smoke.
Son of a bitch.
You know, on average, those 3 cars together have a normal amount of emissions.
And burning a normal amount of oil. Let's go down to me trackside. It looks like I'm about to go talk to Sammy here. Thanks, Chris. We're down on pit lane. We think Sammy Wu might be a DNF. Let's go see what's going on. This doesn't look good. What happened?
It's not too bad. I think it just came back through the breather. There's smoke coming out of it. I thought it was a brake pad, but it's not. I smelled that even in the last run. I thought it was just a brake pad.
Yeah, because we saw a little bit of smoke. I just thought you'd locked it up or something, or turning, or... Final lap for the intermediates. That's us. I wanted to do a head-to-head against Keith, so this is us. We've synced the cameras. We're both ready to go. You and me, one fast lap for all the marbles.
Yeah, you basically just harassed me to stay. I'm an entrepreneur and you have a government job, and it's late afternoon. We're really far from Vancouver. Rush hour is a thing, and I've got shit to do.
Well, all of a sudden, government jobs aren't so bad now. But anyway, I couldn't leave without us having a proxy race. Track temp is up to about 32 degrees, so what we're going to do here is we'll start the clock for each of us when we pass the start-finish line on our fast lap.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, you and I are at the head of a train, final lap, all the marbles, rounding the corner, hitting the gas, leaving everyone behind us in the dust. Let's walk our way through this lap. So you're obviously pulling the way towards the main straightaway. You got an extra, 60 horsepower or something like that on my car. My car loses its mind because it thinks I'm about to rear-end you. And then you ran wide on here. I managed to make the corner, so I've caught up quite a bit of time. You actually did a pretty good job using up all the corner there. And then what's going on here with you? Looks like you're pulling over, or you're just going kind of slow.
Yeah, I'm just fucking with you at that point. No, this is the point at which I decided to pull out. I was unaware that we were going in for an all-out race until you said it to me just before we started. I took you on the straightaway. I missed a gear shift going into that corner.
Oh, okay.
It no longer served a purpose. I was done for the day. Again, it's rush hour. I gotta get home. I got things to do. I'm pretty distracted on the day, and I was looking to finish up.
You sucked all the fun out of it now. You weren't even trying.
And then I kept up with you on the back end, because it's not particularly hard to keep up in the vehicle I'm in.
That's true.
I just hit the gas a little bit more. I can catch up to the person in front of me. As you'll see when we got at the beginning at the straightaway there, I could just run away from you.
Yeah, that is true. That's the thing too. I'm finding I'm pretty decent at this track, so I'm like fighting for tenths, right? But you've still got a few seconds in hand if you can, or even if you want to, like get to the point where. Oh yeah, this is you leaving.
Okay, take care, man.
Yeah, like if you got to the point where you felt comfortable doing 190 an hour on the main straightaway and then hammering the brakes as hard as you could.
Later, dude.
But again, this is one of your daily drivers, so.
I just had the brakes replaced on that car, and that's an expensive activity.
All right, well. We're going to go to Ted at Race Control again. We asked him to try and figure out how much body roll each car has by how they lean on turns, by comparing the left turn versus the right turn, and how much you have to rotate the camera to line up the horizon on both the turns. But I'm not really sure if he got what we were talking about, because I think he's about 5 beers in by now.
My name's not Ted.
Sure.
All right. Guys, let's do a quick comparison of angles. Now, this is... I don't really know what this is, honestly. I mean, is it the driver? Is it the car? Well, whatever. Let's just check it out. So first up, we've got... What car is this, Chris?
BMW.
All right, we should put that on the screen right here. BMW. All right, so as he's coming around this left corner, the camera, of course, is going to tilt a bit from the body roll of the vehicle, and on the left side as well. We calculate those two numbers together, we get a number.
You have no idea what this thing is.
All right, so now we take the angles. Now this one we had to adjust by 2.9 degrees one way, and this one 0.7 degrees the other way. So we got a difference of 3.6 degrees. I don't know what that means, but is it the driver? Is it the car? Who knows? I mean, the guy spends a lot of money on a BMW. I hope it corners well. But anyway, let's check our next vehicle. What the hell is this?
Yours.
Oh. All right, next vehicle on the screen is the 2015 Chevy Spark. Now the Chevy Spark compared to the BMW 330e, well, let's say it's somewhat less refined. The driver is very aggressive though, so let's see what the angle looks like. All right, so we got a negative 3.3 and a positive 1.1. Of course, that's a difference of 4.4, which is a greater number, which means it's worse or better. Depends on how you look at it. So is the handling better? Is the driver better? I don't know. I don't even know what the hell these graphics are for. Let's move on to the next car. All right, the Mercedes. A god among vehicles at a difference of only 0.8. Either that or he's going around this corner very slowly. I think his track speed was about 38 kilometers an hour here. So let's move on to the next car. All right, our last vehicle up, we have the 2017 Porsche 911, a difference of 1.8 degrees. Now, again, this was, Keith?
Yeah.
this was Keith. He was pushing it pretty hard on this lap. Now the Porsche 911 is a great track car. I don't think there's any question about that. 1.8 is a great result. Back to you, Chris.
Okay, thanks, Ted.
My name's not Ted!
Now let's go to the final session for the newcomers. This is an interesting one because this is their first open session. Sammy, the Mercedes driver, is out. This is our second consecutive Mercedes DNF for anyone who's brought Mercedes out to the track, so not a good look for Toto and Mercedes. But we also have Tesla onboards now. So let's cut to the Tesla starting the hot lap here. The f*** is that?
It looks like someone stitched a series of 1973 Polaroid photos together. Hey, Elon, your camera sucks.
I got a better one. Hey, Elon, your cameras are as good as your fashion sense.
Okay, you think we could keep this going for a whole lap?
Oh, absolutely. Let's go. Hey, Elon, I've seen footage like this of Kaiser Wilhelm.
Hey, Elon, this must be the only video I've ever seen that could be stored on vinyl.
Hey, Elon, all your kids together could pull this car faster around the track.
Hey, Elon, a GoPro is basically Bitcoin, and this camera is Dogecoin.
This video looks like Nazi porn they forgot to put the women in.
For the cost of one share of Tesla, you could buy about 35 better cameras.
This is what an action scene in Mission Impossible would look like if it were shot by second graders.
Hey, Chris, you know what we call Elon Musk's kids?
No.
Muskrats.
Hey, Elon, the Russian army would kill for this tech, but that's about it.
Hey, Elon, the only way your cars go fast is if you shoot them into space.
Hey, Elon, this video is so bad, you could send someone a picture of your dick and you wouldn't need to buy them a horse.
Hey, Elon, the wiring diagram for this camera looks like your family tree. There's about 9 lines, and half of them appeared out of nowhere. Oh, wait, Chris, I'm just hearing Toto Wolff is calling in. He has a couple insults, too.
Yeah, thank you. Your insults are inefficient. Hey, Elon, f*** you.
That's a little too short, Toto. Let's drag that out a little bit.
Okay, hey, Elon, your camera sucks. You can find the part number for a better one by adding dash 1080p to your son's name.
Toto, do you have any more down there?
I have 2 more. Hey, Elon, your company is like Mazepin's driving. It's going nowhere and investors are paying for it. My last one. Hey, Elon, your mother's like communism. Everyone thought she was a good idea in the 70s until we met what came out of her. I am done. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Toto. Chris, SpaceX, Twitter, Tesla, world's richest man. Who the hell do we think we are?
Keith, I don't know about you. I'm just a random idiot with a bit of spare time. Okay, let's pick up Ed's on board again. We are coming around the final corner.
Let's get the beeping button ready to go. This is going to be some rough language. You'd think you had a trucker behind the wheel of that Spark.
All right, Ed's coming up for a hot lap here. They managed to pass the people that were stuck ahead of them, so now...
All right, it's just me and the M2 again.
The M2, as you can see, is gone.
I got Dave in the Tesla coming up on my ass, though.
On the main straightaway, but Ed actually does a pretty good job. He hits 150 kilometers an hour at the end of that straightaway, which is pretty good. Pretty much the car's limit for the... What was it you called it again? A golf cart?
It's a combination of a golf cart and a lawnmower.
So again, Ed, I think he is probably one of the people on the track that actually gets 100% out of his car. You can see grazes the inside of the curve there, runs the car out wide. The interesting thing about this car too, there's 327, I think he said, pound-feet of torque on a vehicle that weighs about 2,500 pounds, which is the highest torque-to-weight ratio of any of the cars here today. So coming out of the corners, he gets a huge boost right off the line, but then once he starts getting up at a higher speed, you run out of juice fairly quickly. You can see here he's only doing about 100k an hour, whereas I think the rest of us are probably doing around 120 or 130.
You know what we don't have footage of, though, is every time he finished a session, he had to drive over to the superstore and plug his car in to wait for some additional power to be added so he could come back and do another round of driving.
We actually do have footage of that. I just cut it because it's just a dude sitting in a car. But again, he does a good job on these. This is his best lap. He's running at about 120 coming up, so he's going to put in a fairly representative lap time of the cars that are here today.
Here's what we can learn from from Ed's car and Ed's driving on this. Driving a proper track line at a slower speed will get you a better time than driving a sloppy track a sloppy track corner in a faster car.
You lose a lot of your time in the corners. Here's a 132.8. Pretty respectable lap time for a vehicle that's pretty much got the same, less power than a sport bike. So
this makes me think of Mario Kart. And when you were playing Mario Kart, if you went off the track on Mario Kart, it slowed you down significantly, and you could never win the race. If you could just stay on the track, no matter who you were Yoshi, Mario, Luigi, didn't matter. If you stayed on the track, you were pretty good to win that race.
Yep. All right, so that's the end of our day. The rest of it, I think everyone ran out of batteries and no one did any interesting more laps. Ed had to cut it off early because, like you said, his battery died, so he had to go charge. So let's take a look at the times. At the slowest end of the spectrum, from shittiest to best, we've got Sammy's best lap of 1:43. Although, to be fair to Sammy, he did DNF and he didn't actually get a chance to go through an open lap in session 4. Edward's best time was a 1:32.8. Keith, the fastest lap we had you recorded was a 1:31. I think you probably got a 1:29. But I'm not really sure because, again, camera work of amateurs.
Well, Chris, mediocre driver, great car, right in the middle.
You tied then, Dave, at a 1:29 as well. My best time of the day was a 1:26. So we've got a series of awards for everyone. Keith, do you want to give the awards here?
Yeah, we always like to give out the Miss Congeniality Award right away, and in this case it's going to be a Mr. Congeniality Award. He didn't finish, but he was gracious about leaving unfinished, and that goes to Sammy.
Sammy Wu, also probably the most excited about coming back again, as well as Ed. What's our next award?
All right, our next awards is, we'll call it the Trucker Award. This is going to the most F-bombs around the track, and that obviously goes to Ed.
It does.
Fucking hell, get out of the fucking where's the instructors when you need them?
We've got a most energy efficient award because, like everybody else, we're greenwashing this video to make ourselves feel better, and of course that's going to Dave in his Tesla.
His average lap time, I think, was about 2 minutes.
Now, Chris, we do have an award for you.
What is that?
Well, remember, you were hacksawing the steering wheel. That's not good for your tires, and we're going to give you the award for most worn tires.
I am happy for that. I hate these tires. I cannot wait to get a set of Pilot Sports on that car.
All right, I think that wraps up our awards.
Except for one, which is the nicest car, goes, of course, to Mr. Keith Roy.
Oh, I'll take that. Thank you very, very much for... Oh, you're presenting me an award.
I am?
You're literally handing me an award. Chris is handing... It is a cash award. Chris, I appreciate this, recognizing the cost of maintaining that asset and acknowledging that with some cash. Oh, I've got... Oh, Dogecoin. You're giving me... Are there actual coins?
No, they are not.
Well, thank you very much. I humbly accept the award for nicest car. I gotta, I want to thank Ferry Porsche, and I want to thank the entire Porsche manufacturing.
This isn't like an awards show. Like, you don't need a speech. You just say, like, thanks, I'm gonna move on because everyone's probably stopped watching by this point anyway.
All right. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. We appreciate your support.
Until next time. Thanks for watching.